Yeah, we are in smack dab the middle of something called a solar maximum, but we're pretty much in the space of it now. And what that means is that it's at this kind of peak energy right before the solar poles flip. I think as we go into this eclipse season, it's echoing what took place on April 8th. So if the veil is thin, it's practically non-existent, and it will amplify where your intentions lie, where your authenticity lies. So things will amplify there, and there's no right or wrong. You're just gonna get some reflections back onto this. So everything you wish to create can be just expanded right now. Any wounds might be a little inflamed right now, just to get you intimately in alignment with how to walk forward. So as we move into eclipse season, all these days are really powerful. However, I feel like when we get into the week of October 22nd,
what portal do you think opened for you with that song?
As sound does, it opens memory. It opens memory beyond this life, memories of collective consciousness, the earth, the elements, and their teachings. And so, it's fascinating. We think we have to work so hard, but at the end of the day, I think it's just participating in sound, current, and vibration and memory, and we can get where we want to go. It's pretty simple, actually. Yeah.
So with that, Bonni McCliss, welcome back on Just Tap In.
Yeah,
such a gift to be here with you. The first time we opened up with what you were most excited about right now in your life, and your response was that you're excited that the collective was being so willing to plunge into spiritual truths. So why don't we open up this time going deeper into what are those spiritual truths that are emerging for the collective right now?
Yeah, that's a great way to open this space. I think before, if we take we take the spiritual journey or ideas of one being on a spiritual journey, even a few years ago, it was so limited. And it was limited to our upbringing and what was tolerated in our families and our friend circles. And as the years click on and move forward, something's happening to us where we are experiencing the call of our true self and our authenticity individually, and of course our inheritance and birthright as a collective here on earth at this time. And what I see happening is an unavoidable call and a feeling, a sensation I'm hearing over and over again from the people I work with. Nothing's more important than living my purpose and connecting to true self. And I mean, that's a phenomenon. It's not something we were, the media told us we needed to do per se. It's not something that, there's no book of life, obviously. So we're listening to something primordial, something almost tribal inside of our being, this call. And so it's absolutely the important thing now is how to listen, how to cultivate a container to have deep vision and creativity, and just to keep ourselves centered. I think we're moving from doing into a place of being. And we need some education on that. Yeah.
And I know you receive a lot of messages that come through for you about the state of humanity. And you've said that the higher beings that are coming through right now, they're wanting to deliver almost like the how, like the manual of like, how do we get from that state, from doing to being? So really starting off, they said that we're moving into the unmanifest. So the way I interpret that is like, we're moving into the unknown. Like this has never happened before on Earth, this collective shift. So how do we navigate that chaos, knowing that we're going into a new iteration of civilization and humanity where we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Where is the how in that?
Yeah, where's the how in evolving into the unknown? It starts with foundational belief systems and patterns. It starts with the will of your heart and your intention. It starts with looking at it as this amazing mystery of life. And you have to decide if this mystery is going to be your ally or your enemy. And the only way I know how to do that and make that, kind of call it on which side of the fence you want to reside, is making a personal decision and stake and creed of your life. Do you trust your life? Do you trust nature? Do you trust that there is a divine organization to everything? Or do you think it's all just entropy and miscellaneous and chaos theory? You have to make a personal stand on what you believe. And I honor everybody's beliefs and feelings and their journey, but as for me, I take the stance of divine nature and trusting my life in all of it. You can't pick and choose, like it's all a part of the process. So as we move forward into one of the biggest shifts not only of our lifetime, but that this planet has seen in thousands of years, our ancestors tried to give us a heads up about this shift of the ages, they call it. We're moving from an external focus point into an internal one. And that's really actually very scary. We all like the idea of sitting and meditating and going within. We get that. We get the what, but the how is really complicated. So the advice that I tend to give people when you're starting to go deep into your own vision, into your own field, is resetting any inner beliefs or self-condemning thought systems. A lot of times it's hard to go within because even if it's on a subconscious level, we've really shamed ourselves. I should have done this. I should have done this better. I should look this way, or I should feel this way, or I shouldn't have said that thing, or, I think we have a lot of internal self-deprecating language, and that's where you begin in how you talk to yourself. And I run into some interesting territory with people who have religious trauma, or where certain words are like triggers and just these really complicated buzzwords that over centuries religions have definitely coined as a part of their process. But these words are really meant for everyone, wherever you are in your life. It's a part of the system to detox the mind and open the heart. And one of those words that can tend to be a little loaded is this idea of forgiveness. And so, in beginning this journey of how, can you sit there and feel the effects of forgiving yourself for being tripped up by illusion or fear, or giving way to the tantalizing efforts of anger and rage? Like, can you just see yourself as human and take a moment, and this is the how, to forgive yourself in that moment, or to ask the Great Spirit to begin again? And as simple as that is, it's like the baby taking its first step. You can't run before you take your first step. And so, yeah, it starts with your real purification of heart and intention by just saying, oh, I see, and I feel, and I know that I could reach for higher ground. So that's the first step in the how to take our baby steps in this shift of consciousness, I believe.
Yeah, and right before we were recording, you were talking about how sometimes we all go through this fall of grace. And the way I perceive this fall of grace for humanity is, and we were just having a conversation about this with Dr. Ibrahim Karim, founder of biogeometry, and he said that the fall from grace is when humanity went and separated the two hemispheres of our brain and went into the complete left brain thinking and left brain consciousness, trapping us in a way into time and space and away from our multidimensionality. So I feel like we have been behaving in this old paradigm and old consciousness going into a new earth or a new teaching or a new set of principles that we can abide by as our consciousness shifts. So I would love to highlight for you what has been that like shift from going from the old paradigms to what we're co-creating now as a species.
Yeah. I think that's a great feedback from Ibrahim. I believe that personally, completely. Where the fall from grace has been this separation and this kind of attachment to thinking of ourselves externally and separated. And in doing that, we've really compressed everything down to believing kind of the lowest denomination of what we're capable of creating. It's really caused a schism. And I think that it's been purposeful for us to contract into the space. You know, even the pain and the chaos on the earth I see as divine. As nature goes through the periodicity and the cycles it's designed to go. But, you know, I think our power of belief has really been what has faltered in this whole thing. And the Lakota have this saying, they say that it's easy to be brave from afar. And I notice this too as a part of our culture as we interact with each other in our truths and our belief systems, which are very authentic. We're still transmitting that from far away or behind screens or still under this landscape of separation. And so part of what the New Earth paradigm and dynamic is suggesting from my high teachers is that we, with great compassion and love and gentleness to ourselves, we take an approach back to each other. You know, the sensitive people, I often hear them say, you know, I can't go around other people, I'm too sensitive. And I mean, that's their truth. And they feel the effects of human contact as overwhelming. So I think as we make this journey back into trust and connectivity and unity, and obviously the deep canals of what we're capable of love, we have to sit with each other physically. We have to stare eye to eye and speak our truth and open our ears and listen to each other's stories down into the depths of our heart. So I believe that although it be kind of simple tactics to advance a human race, it's extremely powerful and palpable. So, you know, when the Lakota say it's easy to be brave from afar, it's really intelligent. They're saying, you know, take your courage and lean in and be. And I think another act of courage when it comes to unifying and connecting back to source and our truth is this journey into stillness and silence. Is we all know we should do it, but it's really treacherous. At least it is for me and those that I sit with. I mean, we really struggle and again, self-deprecating thoughts can come in. And I take to heart these teachings of these light beings. I also take to heart these teachings of, you know, the medicine men and women who live here on Earth. And it's really interesting if you go into a ceremony, if you're invited into a ceremony with the indigenous teachers, they'll bring you into space with them, and to get to know you, nobody speaks. You know, the elders will sit with you and nobody says a single word, and they get to know your heart just by sitting in your energy and in your presence. And that's the other layer that we've shielded to each other in this journey of separation. We've put on a lot of layers of protection and shield. And so our hearts can't necessarily be heard in the quiet. And perhaps that's why we've created so much noise till we could figure it out, Yeah.
On Facebook, some time ago, you reposted an article from space.com that was titled "Solar Maximum is in Sight and When Will It Arrive?" I'm curious to know what came up for you, even just looking at that title. And the last conversation we had, we talked a lot about the importance of the sun and our connection with you call it the great solar return. So
yeah,
what came up for you around that solar maximum is in sight?
Man, I often wonder if people are tired of me talking about solar radiation. I've been on this tangent for years now, because it's what my guides say is of great importance to our electrical system and our biology to be reverent about this. But yeah, we are in smack dab the middle of something called a solar maximum. And, different science is out about when this maximum will occur. But we're pretty much in the space of it now. And what that means is that it's at this kind of peak energy right before the solar poles flip. And that happens about every 11 years, they think. And, it's natural. It's a part of nature that we go through this. But, my thoughts in helping people is, what is it doing to our biology? How is it skewing our mind and our everyday life? Because it's really effectual to the human body. And, to me, it's like this sun, as it goes into solar maximum, it's having seizures. It's, we have coronal ejections and these blackouts. If you get the software, you can track this, and every hour, if not a couple times of hour, there's these reports of blackouts and coronal ejections. So again, it's not something to be fearful of. It's something to really bring a state of reverence and focus on how to adapt your lifestyle. But what we know about the sun in a spiritual context is that it is full of information and it's full of energy. And right now, as it's going through its renewal, because human beings are so bound to light, we are creatures of light. Historically, we've, with this separation and putting things outside of ourselves, the sun has been our beacon as well, if that makes sense. It has been our resource for information. And so what now is a good idea to do is to maybe more than ever, as we're going through a solar maximum, definitely treat it like a constant eclipse going on until next year. Okay, we're going into eclipse season. Everybody be patient with yourselves and each other.
September.
Yeah, it's like we are all wired and raw and just so much going on. So we have to find another light source, actually. And the way that you can do that, what my guides call the 60-40 split. And they ask me, and to teach others how to do this, how to go in almost if you were taking a third eye and inverting it and looking inside of your being, stabilizing, kind of really just focusing on the end of your nose, and gently guiding your inner sight up to the white, bright light of the crown. And this is your cosmic center. As the Mayans said, we would return to the cosmic center and no longer the solar. Perhaps this is what they were talking about. But when you go in, you really stabilize on this point of light and really still yourself to listen to all the sounds around you. Deeply listen to any vibrations you can track. And when you do that, you're opening up all those upper chakras. You're opening up all of your channel to receive information. But for now, we're getting all the information that could be channeled directly into the crown current. So this is that universal kind of antenna, or beyond universe, however you want to look at it, this Christ consciousness center. So as we go into a solar maximum, keep that in mind. If you're looking for outside resources right now, or soothing even from other people that don't know these kind of things are going on, they're reacting to their solar field and maybe replicating a lot of the static or chaos. And if you're trying to stabilize by way of people who are outside of you, that could be really complicated. So again, just as I know you believe, Emilio, it's about kind of just tapping in, it's going in and stabilizing in that, unmoving center. And, whether you realize it or not, that mana that's being projected into your being is radiating all kinds of different intuitive intelligence, symbols and ideas and creations and healings. So, it's just the tool of our times for sure, is what I'm told. So 60-40, 60% of your focus is inward, leaving 40% to make sure you don't, run into people on the street and bowl them over.
Yeah. And it also even feels like, when you were talking about the last, big eclipse that happened around April this year, you said that the veils are thinning.
Yeah.
And that'll also bring about a lot of memories, and maybe not even from only this lifetime, but from many others that we've lived in parallel or in the past.
Yeah.
And you said that, we could either go in one of two directions, which is it'll bring up our greatest pains or traumas, or it'll bring out our greatest talents. I can imagine, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I'd rather be bringing out my greatest talents than my greatest pains, even though sometimes we have to move through the pain in order to find the gems and the talents. But talk to us about uncovering these for ourselves, and really moving through that process while the veil is thinning.
I believe that this is my most passionate message, and I believe that it's part of my divine purpose to not only bring through this this concept of what is happening to humans here on Earth, but then also to teach the how to navigate such a radical thing. And it's been impressed upon me, this information, that we're going to, if we're healers or teachers or leaders, my guides say you have to reach something they refer or regard as 11th density consciousness, which I've said this to people and they're like, oh, no. 11D means this or that. I'm just repeating what I've heard, and I honor anybody's beliefs in this. But I think that the signature vibration of the double ones is a gate. It's a portal. And I think that's what they're talking about. And, when they say appeal to this place of consciousness, what that represents in our human understanding is non-dualistic mind, non-dual thinking, and non-judgment. That is the precursor to advancing in where we're going in the shift. Because if you're judging, anything really, you're shutting down the potential of nature. You're mutating actually the course of nature. And this judgment, the snap judgment, whether on ourselves or other people, it's habitualized now. It's not a fault. It's not good or bad. It's just a situation that we need to work to perfect in higher thinking and higher mind. And so that's just the kind of the foundational place to stand as you move into the veil thinning and this radical return. I think in indigenous cultures, they refer to this as the great soul return. And this is a really, really, really profound thing. So if you can imagine that part of our ascension is becoming whole, we talk about this wholeness or this awakening. What that really means almost energetically and logistically is that we're becoming more aware of all we've ever been or who we could be. And we're seeing that a lot in our teachers, our spiritual teachers, talking about our cosmic heritage and inheritance and our connection to all of the different races. And so if everything is collapsing, the way I describe it is like paper dolls, like there was a strand of paper dolls that is you. It's all coming back into one point of focus, or an accordion collapsing. If you had past life traumas that were unreconciled, fears, maybe the way that you experienced loss of loved ones, and even in past lives, or your life ended through extreme violent ways. That, not necessarily the visual memories per se, not necessarily the full, it's not like an HD video. The feelings, the residue is what's really kind of waking up inside of us. So you're seeing people roll out of bed and they're just panic stricken, and they have anxiety and social anxiety. And they're like, it must be the political venue, they're trying to figure this stuff out. So that's one part that is a big return. Again, this solar return is all of us is coming back because the bill is due to heal that which is destined to be healed and integrated. And of course, you have the other side of your greatest talents and abilities that you've ever possessed in any life. I tell people, if you are a levitating monk in the 15th, century, in the year 1500, this is waking up. Again, you don't necessarily have the how to levitate and defy gravity as a logistical process in your mind. You're having this feeling, you're having this residue of knowledge return, and a frequency that's oscillating, in a really, really fast way. So again, I'm with you, Emilio. It's like, I hope all of my greatest gifts and talents are returning, but I don't think we get off of the hot seat that way. I think it's equally as challenging to have our greatest powers and superhuman talents return to us as well. And so again, when we look at this paradigm shift or this great return, it's not about helping that process along. It's not about figuring out what the talent is actually. It's not about trying to get ahead of the pain so it won't hurt so bad. It's about developing yourself as the container and the receiver. And I know that that's kind of a philosophy with not a lot of rules. And, I'll surmise with this statement because it's helpful as a visual. I like to tell my people that, your greatest gift and talent is like the hope diamond. Your karma or your pain that you've collected over lifetimes is the 7 miles of mud sitting on top of your diamond. And life is about shoveling the mud off. Not because life is cruel and just hard, but every time you take a shovel of mud off, you gain strength. And without that strength, you can't hold the talents or the powers that you possess. So the irony is we have to run towards the fire of our fears and our pain so that we can hold our superpowers.
And as a student of the higher dimensions, you've said that you realize that it's less about time and more about integration. So it's also about walking through the lessons we need to learn and not going just past them, as you were just mentioning. And in there's a big topic about spiritual bypassing. And I feel like since spiritual bypassing isn't coming from the soul, it's coming from the ego, it's very easy to be blind spotted by this way of coping and just wanting to be at our highest potential, highest timeline, and not moving through, as you said, the mud. So I would love to shed light on the ways that we all spiritually bypass, because just because we're having this conversation, we're talking about spirituality, doesn't mean that that's not within us as well. So where are those blind spots that people can start to shed light on and really bring to the surface to return back to true integration?
For sure. The biggest blind spot that I see in myself and other people, it really boils down to fear of being left behind, fear of not being unified with our tribe and our people. I think that it really does come down to reconciling your own fear. And that's a long, I really try not to go off and participate in conspiracy too much, just because I stand for the cycles of nature. I stand for divinity running through all of it, even the painful stuff. But if there was a conspiracy, it would be you know, all of the things that have covered up our individual beliefs in our capacity to trust ourselves and our own intuition. So, I think really coming back to trusting yourself, I really want to just put something here as to be helpful and to be of service in this part of how to grow and how to come back to the center, is this idea of imagination. I think when we were little and we were, really open and intuitive and connected, as children are so connected, somebody outright told you, or at least inferred when you were interacting with your imagination, that's not real, that's not a way that you can fit into society. And I think that that's really a big part of where fear struck us early on, that our authentic way of perceiving nature or energetic patterns was not okay. Like it wasn't a part of our system, and we can't survive that way. So that primordial pain of, if you are you will be kicked out of the circle. I mean, that's intense. And I think we're still trying to recover that. So when you look at imagination, if I were to set this straight, if you understand the laws of energy, then you know that energy, as we perceive it through human form anyway, we can't start it from absolutely nothing. There are these forces of energy all around us that we perceive in a myriad of different ways, as we're all these different canvases and creations. But you can't start energy from nothing, and you can't end it completely. What humans have as a beautiful gift is this idea of transfiguration or alchemy, or transmutation of energy. And so if you think about that and how it aligns with imagination, then, imagination can't be real. All it is the part of our brains that interprets this matrix around us through our perceivers and spits it out through our own creation. The example I love to use is, imagine a mom walking down the street with her little boy, and the little boy points up at the sky and he's like, "Look, Mom, it's a red truck flying through the sky, dropping green jello bombs." And, that mother could have been ignoring that child for the past 30 minutes. But as soon as her ears pick up on that, fear clutches her heart. And she says, "Oh, no. Oh, you have such a good imagination." Like, she just panics. And that little boy retracts because he can feel that wave, that heart frequency shift. He's perceiving a module of energy through his own filters, and that's what's coming out. That doesn't make it not real. That doesn't make it wrong. So when people go into developing their own intuition or going into their internal land and listening to their soul, I run into a lot of people go, "Well, I just can't trust this. I'm probably making this up, or I'm probably just projecting, or this is my trauma." People have all kinds of ways to try to get out of their own truth. And, I just want to remind everybody out there, if it's coming through your perceiver, it's real. Period. It can't not be real. You're perceiving an energetic model. So that is a very big point of the how. And if you to surmise this point, if you take how back to the people who actually did this before on Earth, when the veil was very thin, we could take a look at the Egyptian dynasty. The veil was very thin during their time, and they created feats that we still don't understand how they did. They had communication with star systems and star beings. What was going on there? There's all of these stories and these hieroglyphs talking about this deification process. You have the 42 principles of Maat, the goddess, the Egyptian goddess, talking about how to get this heart to be as light as the feather on the scale of justice. They knew how to do this. And so it really is, if we can replicate that at this time, as the veil is also going extremely thin, the Earth's core is slowing down to a stop. All these things are very similar to Egyptian dynasty times, I feel. Then it is about the purification of the mind, the intention, and the heart. And again, the how we go about resetting our container and our receiver.
Beautiful. And going even deeper into that, in these modern times, how do we then make our heart as light as a feather?
How do we make our... So there's like 500 roads to do this. Thank goodness. You know, I love it. So I think that's our grace. I think that there are so many options and artful ways to go about doing it, but I really like to just follow in the footsteps of giants personally and really trust and appreciate indigenous wisdom. It works for me. And, you know, this idea of veneration and reverence is really key. The problem with it is we don't know what to believe anymore. You know, I think that religious dynamics are shifting for people. Some people are waking up very angry that was their belief system or their family's belief system. Sometimes spirituality can be very void of a higher being. You know, in metaphysics, we're like, we are the universe, and it's very hard to like feel intimacy with a black hole and the all. It's not untrue, but it's really there needs to be some kind of middle ground to really help evolve our heart. So finding something, and it doesn't really actually matter what you believe in, but finding something to almost reparent yourself. You know, if it works for you to follow indigenous wisdom, then, you know, you speak to Mother Earth and Father Sky. You lean on the elements of water and earth and air, and you bare your soul to these wisdom keepers, and you ask for guidance. You know, veneration means to let go and to lean on something that truly is divine and maybe bigger than you feel right at this moment. And I think that's a very complicated scenario for us right now, because we're trying to empower ourselves and be courageous and autonomous and break through old paradigms. But that doesn't mean we need to disconnect from this kind of divine parental order. So definitely, you know, find what that, you know, works for you. In Hinduism, you know, they have these beautiful benevolent deities. Find something that works for you would be my first suggestion at lightening the heart. And the second thing is this idea of reverence. There's a whole universe in a microcosm, in a blade of grass, in someone clearing their throat. That's their entire life story. And as this society has said, look for bigger, flashier, bold statements outside of you, that we can't continue to do that and gain any depth. You want to be like the child. You want to be curious about the mystery and really, really, really dig into the microcosmic order of things. And to do that, you have to practice this concept of reverence and feeling like, you know, what I tell my students and my children is everything is sacred. Everything is sacred. Treat every word, every interaction, every hiccup. You know, just going to the grocery store, walking the dog, it's sacred. And if you start adapting your mind to appreciate life in this way, it will give you the key to go deeper, but not until you do that. If you don't do that, you know, it's access denied, actually. So this is what I have found as my way, and the way I teach my students how to really develop the heart. And again, continuing to give yourself grace by way of forgiving yourself for being human, and asking for the gift to begin again, moment by moment, if you need to, some days. Yeah.
I love that you brought up ancient Egypt and how in those times they were operating from a complete different perception than us, that allowed them to perceive the world with a thinner veil, allowing them to connect with other star beings, other constellations outside of the galaxy. I've heard you say before that there are a lot of frequencies coming into the planet right now. specifically from Andromeda. So I would love to even also shed light on that. What is our connection with this constellation or this galaxy? Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
Andromeda
It's a
is a new
whole new.
it's another
It's a new
galaxy.
kid on the block. Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, I love going back to ancient Egypt and the Maya. I have so much respect for Mayan systems and beliefs. I do a lot of research on it. And again, they said this is going to be this time, obviously the end of the long calendar that began in 2012, going on to pivotal times into 26, 27, and on into possibly 2032. That we will be moving from a focal point, maybe even an energetic orbit point of Earth, into what they regard as a galactic center. And we're watching this happen as, this is science, this is astronomy, as we are moving closer to the field of Andromeda. And if you follow maybe more of the modern science approach, they say, we're still light years away of being affected by this field. I disagree. As a psychic, as a channel, as an empath from these higher beings of light, we are absolutely bathing in this frequency and experiencing what I am told, great amounts of gamma radiation, which is also encoded with intelligence and information. So when we look at this new kid on the block, the field of Andromeda, what I'm told and what I experience is it's a faster pattern of vibration and light in some ways, and it's, to me, a much more intelligent archive and system. So when I think of Andromeda, it's almost like I go straight to this kind of Atlantean archive, almost like perhaps this was maybe the teachers that informed some of these ancient civilizations or races. Who knows? But that's where my mind goes to that. But whether you want to take this into this mystical place as, the returning of master teachers of energy and life, or if you want to just take it from a basic shift in Earth's biology and interruption of the iosphere, it's going to affect us electrically. It is. And one of the phenomenons I think is not truly known by many is to raise your frequency or your vibration to meet these new frequencies coming into Earth. The way you really rise in vibration or raise frequency is to slow down any physical momentum. And it has to do with motion and inertia and really finding that harmonized balance. But so the slower that you go and walk, and sometimes this can be very anxiety provoking, the slower you use with your speech or movements of body, if you choose to stop multitasking, you will find that your connection is a lot stronger, that there's a significant return or a faster vibrational cycle of light moving through your energetic body by doing that. So essentially, the slower you go, the higher you're going to vibrate. So as we move into these new cycles of Andromeda, if people don't slow down, I predict they're going to run into a lot of health situations. They'll get the message, they'll start having, making a lot more mistakes when they used to be able to handle 5 tasks at once. They're like, what is wrong with me? I think as we go through this transition of adapting to Andromedan frequencies, we're going to go through a lot of fatigue, a lot of physiological fatigue, brain fog. And again, it brings us back to really maintaining our container and taking this very seriously. I can't say that enough. Like, this is important. This is really happening. And when I go back to this idea of how the Egyptians navigated these portal openings into other states of being and energy, and even indigenous ways, or even with the Maya, they came together as community. They came together to perform ceremonies and, ritualistic space together. Again, that's bringing us back into this physical space together. And I know, I have a retreat center that I run with 2 other beautiful teachers in Hot Springs. And I know when we come together in prayer or ceremony, unbelievable things transpire, gateways open, miracles happen, healings happen, things that I don't think I could have ever maybe channeled on my own. But, when 2 or more gather, It's really this incredible, we become this amazing portal. So I think, again, just to answer this question, community, reverence, and pacing ourselves, and this idea of veneration all play into this massive shift as the veil is thinning, and we're becoming avatars, like the Egyptians spoke so highly of through their own process of deification. We're becoming superhumans, truly, if we're lucky.
Let's open.
So yeah. If we do this right,
we were talking about right before we started recording, like the state that you get in, you call it the avataric state that we all have pretty much access to. Going even deeper into that, how did this state within you begin to emerge, and how are people collectively beginning to access it more and more now?
Yeah. I love how you just said, Emilio, that everybody has access to this, because that's true. The type of channeling I do is a very integrated one. It's what my guides call the avataric state of being. And what that kind of means is that you're kind of living collectively more than you're not. It's not like a periodic tapping in, like you're living a lifestyle that is conducive to maintaining a connection of this proportion. And everybody can do it. And I think it's our destiny to do so. As for me, in the beginning, I thought a lot like, why me? I'm not special. Like, what is this about? And why I've had all this contact and experience and teachings. I often over the years felt very unworthy on this connection. And I can actually track it back down to my level of belief in magic. As a little kid, like I had an unshakable belief in different earths. Like, for instance, and this was long before Toy Story, because I'm kind of old, but I believed as a little kid, unshakable belief that my toys would become animated and conscious when I would sleep, and I would look at them and I would swear, not knowing if it was the trick of my eye, but my heart knew this was true, that they would walk and get up and interact with each other. I mean, I just would not let it go. And this belief in magic and animation and just beyond understanding how life can occur are all around us in really incredible ways. So, I had this really rich imagination, back to that. And just like most parents don't mean to, but I won't say most, but a lot of parents did with kids, is they really, even by default, explain to a kid that that's their imagination. I got, world's greatest daydreamer. My teachers were like, Bonnie's great at daydreaming. I was constantly in this daydream state. And because of that, it scared a lot of people. It scared my parents. And, I was brought to a lot of doctors and ultimately diagnosed with schizophrenia and put on medication and institutionalized for it. And that was a really, really dark time. And that was my love, to have this magic and this belief. But during those times, I lost it. It was a walk through the darkness, and people will have these opportunities to walk through darkness. And the art of finding this avataric state is how you return from darkness back to light. Any way you can find possible to return from darkness back to light. And so through different ways and tactics and going into what was perceived as imagination at the time, I kept reaching for light over and over and over again. And in Egyptian times, they would call this the path of the initiate or the adept. This would be an initiation. And even in indigenous cultures, they put people through these really, really hard tests to see if they will overturn the dark and reach for light. So again, I think that when you're talking about our destiny to be avatar, or just kind of channel our higher consciousness, or this collection of beings in our everyday, it's about, again, finding that veneration, finding that self-purification, really, really staying focused and turned within. But it's also finding creative ways to constantly maintain the belief in what is unbelievable, and really reaching for the light. I mean, it's really that simple. Haha, not really simple at all, is it? There's so many, I mean, I have so many ideas here. You know, we could talk for hours on how to do it, but basically think like a kid. Think like a kid. And you'll do it. Yeah. And non-judgment, this like non-binary thinking is really key.
When you were in your 20s, you went to go see the Dalai Lama speak.
Yeah.
And he shared a piece of wisdom that at the time didn't really click, I would say, for you. But looking back now, you said that this has been one of the most life-changing pieces of wisdom that carried on after when you were able to understand it. So what did the Dalai Lama say when you watched him speak in your 20s?
Oh my gosh. That was probably the most powerful day of my entire life to date. And I've seen a lot of weird things.
Especially growing up in Nevada.
And growing up in Nevada and seeing all the things that I have seen. Yeah, this is like the most powerful day of my life. So I'm super grateful to talk about it. But in my 20s, kind of reaching back into your previous question, Buddhism truly saved my life. It gave me these codes of consciousness in a way that I personally could absorb them. It gave me the opportunity to reach deep into a place of compassion in the dark, in under unthinkable terms even. I thought if they can do it through near genocide, then maybe I can do it as a privileged person here. So Buddhism was saving my life, and I dedicated my life, and I still do. So it was a really big deal to go and be with the Dalai Lama. And on this particular day, I went with my husband, and there was about 200 people there in this auditorium. And I really had it in my head that he was going to teach us how to levitate and the keys and the codes to enlightenment. Like I'd already read about the rainbow body. And I was like, this is the man who's going to teach me how to just vibrate into, you know, the highest plane of consciousness overnight. That's what I thought at 20 years old. So I had some expectation there. And so I was in this auditorium, and he shuffled out onto the stage. He was so sweet, like a child. He was looking around and just like in awe. I mean, the man's probably done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of talks and engagements, but you would have thought this was his first time ever to meet with the human race. So he shuffled out there and he was looking around like, oh, you know, so excited. And he got up to the microphone and he said, "Good morning." And at that moment, people started sobbing and dropping to their knees. And I thought, man, all he said was good morning. What? He could have said hot dog and they would have started crying.
I'm going to try that tomorrow when I go to see my family. Good morning.
Good morning. You can test your skills of where you stand in enlightenment, how people react to good morning or hot dog. It's not about the word. It's what this man has packed so much light into his sound current that people just broke like that. So that was the first thing I thought, something really is weird, but I got really excited. I thought if that's just his preliminary statement, we're in for some good stuff. So he went on to give his talk, and his talk was all about the keys to the universe and to rise to the highest points of consciousness was to be deeply a part of your community and to give to your corner of the world everything you've got in your talent database. Lean into the family as you can. You know, share your resources with your neighbor. Give everything you've got, you know, to really restore the community or the tribe. And he finished this talk and he just reiterated that point over and over again, but essentially that's what he said, and he left. And I was so disappointed. There was no mantra, there was no
Still wasn't levitating.
I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I was so heartbroken. And my husband, who could just see the truth where I couldn't, I turned to him, I'm like, that was disappointing. I really thought he was going to give us the keys to enlightenment. And my husband, God love him, he said, he did. You just can't see it. And I couldn't. And now 20 plus years later, I see it. I see that that is the wisdom of our future, that these are the keys to grow. And we put so much on ourselves to create this massive infrastructure. And, you know, if that brings you joy, do it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be what, you know, you can give to your community. And I love this Andean saying that from the tribes of the Andes, they say, I me. And what it means is me today, you tomorrow. And, you know, in the Western culture, it's like these transactions, like I'm going to give you this, do this thing for me now, here, it's fair, it's just. But in different cultures, if your house burns down, everybody stops their life for however long it takes to help you where you are. And with the expectation and knowing and belief that when it's their turn for help and resources and support, the village will stop what they're doing and give. So it's sacred reciprocity, which is also a universal law that we're learning as we move into our avataric form. So yes, I'm glad you brought it up. Greatest day of my life to date.
And this is a mind-blowing concept that ties directly into the Akashic Records, because you realize, and this is also something that blew your mind when you realized it, is everyone's records are linked. And what you do for yourself, you do for all.
Yeah.
So when you go into that state of exploring the records, how did you realize that all of our records are interlinked with each other?
Yeah, I realized it initially. Well, I was taught this by my teachers, my guides. A lot of the Akashic, they taught me early on that it is a field of consciousness and it's all connected. Hence why, you know, it's really helpful to see everything is sacred and connected, and to really trust that everything has purpose in its natural cycles. But, you know, so I was taught this by my teachers to know that it was a really cool example that was shown to me to help me learn this principle. They showed me that, like, imagine that everybody, or just take your family as all sitting around a table for dinner and sharing one meal. It's turkey, like Thanksgiving turkey and, you know, pie and mashed potatoes and all the things. We're all eating the same meal, but we're taking a different portion. So what you'll find, especially in a family dynamic, is they'll take a big piece of the suffering pie. You know, they'll take a theme through a whole lineage. They'll take a whole theme. And, you know, mom will take a part of the pie. Dad will take a part of the pie. This is hard for people to hear, I know, because there's so much wounds around family. Your brother will take a part.
And they're going to get hungry if you're talking about
I know.
pies.
I know. That's the other downfall of this scenario. But, you know, we all take a piece of this teaching and we work it out through our own filters. And as we come to places of enlightenment, it runs through the pipeline for each other, especially in a family model. So if you have a family where you're really disconnected or just it's really hard, as you walk your spiritual journey and you move through these places of understanding truth over illusion, it runs through that matrix and it's really concentrated through a lineage. Okay, and this is why Ho'oponopono, if you've ever heard that teaching, works so well, because you're putting, or soul to soul, something else that works really well with this, because you're putting that intentionality and that growth into this reservoir. So not, of course, it works on a very potent level with lineages and communities, but that also has, kind of like what the Dalai Lama was saying, if you work where your place of potency resides, family, community, tribe, friend circles, then that creates this kind of echo or reverb. And it really starts to affect the greater whole. So if you're not sure of your purpose, you know, if whatever you're working on with your own healing, I tell people all the time, thank you for doing that healing work. And they'll say, why are you thanking me? This is like my own karma. I'm like, no. Your healing is really, you know, is affecting my life and my level of consciousness as well. And the other way that really this kind of came home as to how we're all connected is doing a lot of teaching and work in dream space. Dream work is very, very, very important and powerful. So if you think about nature and the way things come in two halves, or the sun is a part of your day and the moon takes over the night, consciousness is the same way. And if you were only ever consciously privy or experiencing the sun, you would never have that contrast of dark. So same thing within the human paradigm, you want to start to really, really, really be aware of dream space as this lunar part of your being. And what I've noticed with doing dream work with people, we'll take a bunch of people and do dream circles, or what we call dream pods. We won't talk if there's no theme. There's just intentionality to remember and to be connected in this group. And what will happen is people will report their dreams, and it's interacting with each other's dreams over and over again, like this interstellar cycle. I do it with my children all the time, kind of make them do these dream pods with mom. And we'll have this kind of family lineage dynamic surfing through both of our dreams. And when we come up with it, we're like, wow, how can you deny that we're all connected in this field, experiencing, each other's wounds and triumphs? Like, we just kind of have to make peace with that, I guess. It's really remarkable to see how connected we are.
What have your dreams shown you about what's coming for humanity?
My dreams. If you can imagine a more talkative Bonni, it exists in dreamland. There's a lot of conversations going on. My dreams it's a very interesting space because, when you get into psychic phenomenon, everybody has psychic powers, they do. But and there are themes of different psychic strengths, but we're all like snowflakes. We all have these kind of individuated psychic strengths. But some psychics are, great with prognostication. I'm really, really, really calibrated to receive downloads and channelings and contact while the veil is super thin in my dreams. And the way I describe this, it feels like the Morgan Freeman of my mind comes in, and I have this narrator, like literally, hence probably why they thought I was schizophrenic when I was young. And it's like some nights it's like sit up and listen. It's like night school. And I will listen to these really incredible concepts, mostly to do with energy and how energy can be worked with to bend matter, and to really kind of amplify our rates of vibration to hit that avataric state. So a lot of my teachings or things that I give back out to the world came from night school. So I don't sleep a lot. So that's a big part of my dream space. But the other dreams, it's really cool because I'm talking to my clients in my dreams. They're talking to me. I'm in ceremony a lot of the times, watching things levitate. So I'm being schooled in what's possible. A lot of times in my dreams, they seem very fantastical, but they give me this spark in my day life to go, there's something there. That's not impossible. That's possible. How do I back engineer this and teach this to the masses? And it's not just me. I mean, anybody can have a Morgan Freeman in their head if they so choose.
I would love that. I would love that.
Keep asking. When the student's ready, like just keep asking. I want my narrator.
Morgan,
come. Just like that movie when Morgan played God. I think like, there we go. Full circle. Yeah.
And Bonni, is this a school that we can all join you in? Like the question sort of going towards like, is this an energetic space in the dream landscape or in like a specific dimension or astral reality that we can all go to, or do we all conjure up our own individual schools?
Yeah.
Can I go meet you?
Can you go meet in dream space?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I am like the Dalai Lama paparazzi. I'm always seeing him in my dreams. I'm like, I think both. I think it's both. I think you absolutely can have amazing intimate relationships and connections and teachings and ceremonies in dream space. Like we're not giving dreams enough credit into how it informs our life and our consciousness. I mean, we really need to lean into this. So yeah, I think I meet in that dream space. I've seen it and experienced it firsthand over and over and over again, actually without fail, with intentionality. But I think also, as we cultivate our dream downloads or our night downloads, or this can also happen in meditation, from focusing on that crown light, like I suggested earlier, you're going to get your piece to the puzzle for us. I have a piece to contribute. You have a piece to contribute. And, I think a lot of what I come up with is like this believe in the unbelievable, because we are, energy, our energy is capable of so much more than we have been taught. But, as you're sitting in these night schools, so to speak, anyone will be given their keys to the puzzle. So yeah, I think both are truly possible, and it's born from extreme intentionality. So in India, they often teach their disciples or their students, like, keep calling out for a teacher, and the teacher will come. And I've seen that. That's really, really powerful and very true. In fact, I was doing this, Emilio, one time in my 20s because I believe this. I just believe in the unbelievable. That's my rap. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just keep asking for a teacher from India. And every night I was like, oh, teacher, I'm calling out to you.
and he has to be Indian.
And at that point, again, I'm like 20. So, and I was like, okay, it has to be Indian. Now I know, anywhere of all time, space, in any culture can be your teacher. So I got this, like, it was like I was young. So it was like the first days of like media. And I got this message from Swami Satchidananda. And he said, hi, Bonni. How are you? I was like, is this my teacher? Like from India?
Like an email?
Yeah. No, it was like Messenger. It was like pre-Facebook or whatever. What was that meetup space or whatever? It was like really early media. And
he just goes, good morning.
Good morning. The point, I didn't put that together. It was like the magic words. He's like, hi, how are you doing? How are you? And I was so excited. And I said, hi, I'm good. How are you? And he said, there is no good. How are you? I was like, I'm not doing really good, Swami. I'm actually struggling. I'm like, oh, he wants my truth. He's like, there's no bad. And this went on for years, actually. And so, and I finally got them. I just don't answer them. I'll be like, okay, Swami. But I think my point is, like, it's funny. These miracles are seeds that are waiting for us to witness them. If you can believe in the unbelievable, yes, I'm asking you to kind of think through these childlike terms or this imagination part of your brain. But if you can play around with that, you're literally recognizing the seeds of consciousness that are miracles waiting to be born. Much like that aphorism, if nobody hears a tree fall, does it really make a noise, kind of thing. So, like, if you can't witness the tiny seeds of magic, it has a hard time rooting in your life. And I think when people are really in that dark night of the soul, they're so low in their, in consciousness and in their belief system, when they need more signs more than ever. The irony and the sad thing about it is a lot of times that's the vacuum, that's the black hole. They're not getting any light signs. They're not seeing any seeds of hope or miracles. And that's where I think we inevitably, through dark periods on Earth, have really, really forgotten what we're capable of, because maybe, we just weren't able to maintain that belief through that. But, some people have. Some people maintained it, and those are the teachers. A lot of the indigenous teachings, I think, are steeped in the keys of magic. I've seen it with my own eyes in ceremony. Things that defy the laws. Walking
on water.
Oh yeah,
speaking to the fire.
Yeah, like fires that are raising up and talking back to you, and it's like what it's and the irony is, even in all these sacred books and teachings and parables, even into the Bible, they talk about magic. They talk about the mystery and how far our capabilities go, and somehow we kind of forgot how to believe, I guess. Until now. until now.
Yeah. And the more you've explored the Akashic Records, not only for yourself, but for all the clients that you've had, you realize that there are patterns or certain mile markers that really signify like nobody's meant to hang out in the dark forever. So, you mentioned the dark nights of the soul, and there might even be people tuning into this conversation in maybe a darker period of their time. How can you reassure them through what you've learned from the records that nobody is meant to hang out there forever?
Yeah. It's the cycles of nature that have existed since the beginning of creation. Nothing stays in the dark. It's not how nature works. You won't stay in the dark. It's impossible. But it looks like that's where you're going to stay when you're in it. And that's the point. That's the dark night of the soul. And that this darkness is giving you the gift of depth so that you can hold greater truth and light and capacity and human power. And it is often this hazing that comes before you can step into this avataric state. When you're in the darkest point of your life, you don't have to save you. You don't have to figure it out. That's not on you. The only thing that you need to remember to do is call out for help. Call out and do whatever you can, even if it's small. Trust that it's coming. Don't forget to ask. Don't forget to call. But nothing in nature stays still. Everything is fluctuation and change. And, I've been down on my knees once I get into this place of relief and peace and connection to high codes of consciousness and knowledge. And I've got on my knees and I've just prayed, don't let me lose it. Please don't let me lose this. Don't let me lose it. Let me keep it so it can bear light and teach others. And let me tell you, every single time I lose it, and I sink back down into gravity and I'm human and I stumble and I'm like, now what? I've lost everything and I can't remember squat. I remember to ask for grace and to begin again and call out to my teachers over and over and over again, like you calling all angels, like you can't do it too many times. So that's my message for those that are in the dark, that it's not dark dying in vain. It has a purpose and it is impossible for it to last forever. So just hang in there. It's creating depth. Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Non-attachment, non-aversion. The Buddhists say that, and it's so true. To help us cycle.
And Bonni, going a little bit more galactic in a sense, what is humanity's connection to the Sasani? Because I've heard you speak a little bit about one time you had an encounter with a Sasani being.
Yeah.
And I've been learning a lot from Bashar recently. Mm-hmm. So what is our connection to this race or these galactic beings?
Yeah, the Sasani seem to be very prevalent right now and also very connected to, and I'm not sure how this is all playing out yet, but it's a race that seems to be connected to inner Earth quite a bit, or connected to Earth's archives, really here as the way showers or the messengers. When I had an experience with one of these intelligent beings, I literally thought they were saying Ishani. So that was my first experience of it. And then after sitting with it and listening deeply, I'm like, oh, it's a Sasani being. And I'd never heard of that at that time. But I really do believe that this is a part of our messenger and teachers that are meant for us at this time. And specifically, those beings want to teach us non-binary ways of consciousness. They're the ones that are responsible for speaking about this 11th density thing, or 11D, or the numeric power of the number 11, that resonance quality. And they're helping us to evolve. One of the things that I've gathered from these teachers is that they believe that we're going to go through a really, really intense biological shift, like physiological and human biological shift. Even Earth, they believe that I've been told that the chemical elements of Earth are shifting quite a bit. Because if you think about it, if we have a very thin veil, a thin iosphere, or if we're interacting with all these new elements within our galactic community, I mean, it has to be affecting not only us, but even the chemical nature within Earth. And so we're going through a lot of physiological upgrades. And because of that, we're being asked to kind of go into our cocooning state or slow down. Again, if we gained a lot of fun or inspiration from partying or running marathons, keep doing that. But if you're finding like that some really active lifestyle is just not working anymore, you really, really need to take heed and slow down. So they're really introducing a new way of lifestyle for us. They're also responsible for teaching us how to walk into these avataric states. They say that these teachers are now back on Earth for the first time it's been thousands of years since they've been present. So I think it's something really cool. Why did they leave
in the first place?
Why
did they leave before?
My theory on why certain astral teachers have left the Earth is because of the densities of Earth, because of the core of Earth, the magnetic fields. Everything is really, really, really changing and lightening up. And that's what's creating this very, very porous or thin veil. I don't know if you're experiencing this, Emilio, but it's like you can walk down the street and you're seeing apparitions or flashes of light or ringing in your ears, or you're checking twice because you thought you saw somebody standing there. I mean, it's these worlds are coming together, and it's really in tandem with that concept of the shift of the ages as we look to absorb all of the beings we've ever been, or all that we potentially could be, back into the here and now. I mean, this is a collapsation or an integration, I should say, externally, but it's also happening on all planes of consciousness. So they're really great teachers who want to educate us in the laws of energy, physics, biology, and, there's just having this improved, updated avataric being. So very intelligent teachers.
And what did they teach you about energy bending matter that you were mentioning a little bit?
I have a great story on this one, actually. Often, like I said, if I go back to the Morgan Freeman of my voice, they have this dictation night school thing going on, and they are teaching. They teach a lot about how to use like motion and inertia, or how to create maybe, there's a lot of terms for this 0 point field. Not that I have figured out or want to claim that I've mastered 0 point energy. Not saying that I have. But there are these little elements as I can perceive them, because, my background is not physics. So it's philosophy and being able to read the Akashic Records. But so one day, years ago, they gave me this meditation to do to really experience, I guess you could say, how to open, you could call it, so you could say it opens a portal, you could say it creates light or transforms a more potent seed of light, or creates a whole new energy field. I mean, you could look at it a couple of different ways. But what they asked me to do in the middle of the night was to put my hands up and feel or imagine a sphere. And they said, okay, and we've probably all done that in certain, Tai Chi or Qigong moves, as you're working with the energies of the Dantians. They said, put together a sphere. And they said, imagine that with every fiber of your being, with all of your will of consciousness, you're compressing that energy. Okay. And imagine that there's a smaller sphere in the middle. Think of like a donut. And this sphere is expanding. As you're contracting, this one is expanding at equal force. So it's really intense, actually. If you can imagine the inverse of a deep breath and an exhalation happening at the same time, it's like an explosion. So they said, practice this energy, this meditation. So I really didn't know what it was for at the time, but it felt super deep and important. And I could feel the effects of energy in my body speeding up and doing all kinds of radical things. So the next day, I went to a birthday dinner with my co-founders for my retreat center. We went to her birthday dinner at a sushi restaurant, and they're used to my Morgan Freeman download. Morgan's going to call me and go, stop you. I'm not talking to you about it. I'm using it as a metaphor. But
we are not sponsored by Morgan
We're
Freeman.
not, but gosh, I love Morgan Freeman. I mean, maybe really the joke's on us, but anyway, my partners are used to all of what I call my alien meditations. And I'm like, oh, I've got another one. They gave me another one last night. And so they're kind of excited, but kind of over me at the same time. So we're sitting at the sushi restaurant and I'm like, okay, here's what you do. And we're at the table, the bar. And I'm like, you take the sphere of energy and you compress it. I must have looked crazy trying to explain this with my eyes crossing and this intensity. And I'm like, you expand this inner sphere as you're contracting. I'm really focused on trying to teach them this. And all of a sudden, my little cup of miso soup shot down the table several feet and stopped at the edge of the table abruptly. The sous chef saw, that my partners saw, and I haven't been able to recreate it. We try to teach spoon bending sometimes, which creates some of those.
She's an Avenger.
But we'll shut down the computers. We probably need to calm down. But anyway, so it's like stuff like that. We can't really conceptualize what we're doing. But I think with meditation such as that, and there are many others in the art of, Tai Chi and Qigong, where you're feeling what it feels like as a human container to hold amplified frequency and vibration in this human body. And the funniest thing about that story, I think, is, after that happened, we all witnessed it. We were speechless. And then we all went back to our conversation. Like talking about back to normal. And I'm like, we can't hold it yet. So I think it's just stuff like that I feel so honored to bring through these meditations. I know many of us do. It's nothing special about Bonni. It's just my piece to the puzzle on how to learn to work with energy and matter in new ways. That's historically been unbelievable.
Is that how the pyramids of Giza were built?
I think so. I think they mastered this harnessing of that 0 point field of momentum and inertia. And I think they were able to shift or transfigure density of matter. And I think that, what was a dream became a physical reality. So I think they were masters of dream space. And if you do enough research into the Egyptian archives, or the halls of Amenti, and you really get into the stuff, it's exactly what they're talking about. It's right in front of our face if we can just slow down and believe. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm not there yet, dissolving stone or levitating things. Just went that on the record, but yet.
What is that 0 point energy?
It's a mystery to all of us. People talk about it. Some people believe that it's a conspiracy, that it's been suppressed. But if you think about the mind and the heart, what it does is especially the mind, it creates electromagnetic fields, doesn't it? The heart also has the same capacity. We're generating electrical energy. It can be measured through instruments that measure light. And I think that as we learn to maintain center and focus, again, building on our container to be present and to be reverent and still and centered, I feel like that's the building blocks to hold different formulas of vibration and intensities of that. And I think that that's going to be around this concept of 0 point fields. People think that ETs have mastered this. I happen to believe that that's true. But again, I think it has to do with how we harness the incredible energy of the mind and focus. And then our will from our heart, our purified intention of what we're here to create and to co-create with one another. So it's like this journey back to authenticity. So although 0 point energy sounds really cool, it's my belief the road to that is really simple lifestyle shifts that you continue to implement and engage with every single day, every moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And last time we talked a little bit about, how you raised psychic children, the children of the new earth.
Yeah.
I feel like these children are holding, as you called it before, codes of consciousness,
right,
that will, create then the new teachings for the new earth. What do you feel into will be those new teachings that we're beginning to acclimate with, just to like put it into like a framework that these children are holding in their consciousness right now?
These children who we see as an advanced human makeup, I feel like they're closer to their memory. They're closer to maybe what we would consider, where we experience the indigenous way, where we're connected to earth and the elements. They're more dialed into their sensory departments, their psychic capacities. And so, it draws their attention to the microcosm. It draws their attention to less is more. Because to have more they're overstimulated. We're seeing this with children all over, this overstimulation to noise and visual effects. I think these children hold the memories closer to their own consciousness. And so I really pay attention to children when they speak personally. They really have a lot of great teachings. I know in raising my kids, out the bat, they would talk about things like unity consciousness or this physical world being a dream or an illusion. And they would kind of look at me like, don't you know that? And so I don't see them as lesser beings. I don't see them as my possession. I see them as little teachers that co-create with me. And so, I really think it's important to listen to the teachers. And, I love working with the Gen Z part of our population because you have your foot in this world too. And you're going to be the parents of these children, or you already are the parents of these children. And you have the incredible freedom of mind and heart and courage to challenge an outdated system, to protect our greatest resource, which is the children, and listen to them and take them seriously and see them as equals. And so if you are parents out there doing this with these sweet children, they're very challenging. Very tricky to be. They're like hummingbirds trying to find their way swimming amongst fish. I think that my advice around children is really take them seriously and listen to them. And if you follow their way back into nature, because that's what's happening, they're bringing back our memories of how to live on earth in harmony. So smart parts of our race, I think. Smart people.
Yeah. The last time you said that your family creed was be in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
What did you really mean by that?
I think, my kids might say, no, that's mom's creed who spoke that over our heads. No, I have taught them that. With my kids growing up this way, they've been raised by a mystic, I've been practicing and doing psychic readings, Akashic readings for decades now. And in a small town where they grew up, and it wasn't always easy. Like we spoke about at the beginning of this talk, we've come so far even in a few years, and we live kind of in the heart of a Bible Belt. So, when my kids would go to school and it would get out, first of all, I would tell them, you don't need to talk about what mom does. You don't need to talk about this stuff. It's not on you to carry that. You just need to just be you and walk your own journey. They always felt like they had to defend me. And I'm like, I got this. It's okay. But ultimately it would get out, and sometimes my kids would be harassed with people who had a lot of fear. Other children would follow them around and quote scriptures at them or hit them with Bibles. And they would come home obviously very upset. And they would ask what to do. And especially my oldest, we don't fight back. This is a non-violent family model. And I would tell them, look, you can be in this world and not of it. They don't understand. They're scared of what they don't understand. Have compassion. Have compassion. And it's hard for a kid to hear that when they really just want their parent. I mean, there's times where I've marched up to school, don't get me wrong. The mama bear sometimes. But really our ultimate creed, I used to write it on chalkboards when they were little, we've been following the teachings of the Dalai Lama and Buddhism for a very long time, but So still when they struggle in their adult lives, or I struggle and they'll remind me, it's different ways of repeating the same sentiment. Be in the world, but not of it. Have compassion, have grace, but hold your truth. And what I've noticed with my kids is they tend to be way showers a lot of the time in very simple ways. They're not trying to put themselves out as influencers. They're artists, And I noticed in their little lives of trying to just be them, or really hold that light and compassion, I noticed that they attract a lot of people who need that healing. They attract all the broken people, So it's really kind of cool to watch this whole mantra of be in the world and not of it show us what it could really do. Yeah.
It's hard for someone that is holding that light and then attracting people that could seem, as you mentioned, like broken, and then feeling that it is our responsibility to fix them.
Yeah, it is.
How have you navigated that with yourself, with your children as well? I feel like a lot of people could resonate with that as well.
Yeah, I think it begins with seeing the truth about nature and understanding the big picture of it all, that dark and pain doesn't necessarily mean bad or wrong. That broken or fractured or traumatized doesn't mean less than. That we understand it's, a part of this periodicity that works through all nature, and honor it as a part of the cycle. And again, I've taught my kids, be there, listen, deeply listening and seeing someone as the most healing thing that you could ever give as a gift. So you don't need to be a therapist. You don't need to be a bank account. You don't need to be a life coach or a hall monitor. You just need to be in deep vision with deep listening to their experience and their story, because ultimately there's nothing wrong. But you can still have compassion for suffering. And so I think, what I've noticed in my life with clients, I just move straight into honor of their experience. And it's a deep honor and compassion because I too know deep suffering. So I could really get there with them and say, you're doing great. You're reaching for the light. I see you. I see you. And my kids, I notice with them, they really, really listen. And they often will share their own experience of dark. And that's what they give. I remember when I was in the dark, not this is how I got out of it or this is what you should do. They just said, I too know the dark. I feel you. I see you. And what a gift to be seen and heard. And, I know we feel responsible, and I know that the light attracts all things. And if you're a healer, I used to tell the clients, back in the day, I would say, how many of you guys love going to Walmart? And they crinkle up their nose and they're like, Walmart, oh, I hate going to Walmart. The energy's so dense. And I'm like, okay. Well, how many of you guys like going to Target? They're like, oh, we love Target. It's so bright and cheery and the colors and their market. I said, if you're a healer sent unto humanity to be the lighthouse in the dark, where should you be? In the Walmart of life or the Target? So it's a big ask. I get it. I do a lot of my spiritual work literally in Walmart. I will literally go and you can find me sitting in aisles of Walmart or standing in. Yeah, I'm serious. So if you're really feeling capable and really grounded in your light and your ability to help and to heal, go truly hear and see people at Walmart, or go serve kids in inner city, and that's affecting your community. So back to the big ripple that affects. But it is hard when I hear that a lot with my clients. People are like, oh, I'm attracting all these people with trauma. And I'm like, well, you will probably for the rest of your light days. But you don't need to fix it. There's nothing wrong. But you can listen and see if it's your choice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And Bonni, it's such a gift to listen to you and weave together with you. As you know, we end every single episode with a segment called the Final Trio, which are just little questions that we ask at the end. before that, for someone new coming into your work, where would you send them to connect with you, work together with you, and hear all about the beautiful offerings that you're sharing with the world?
You can find me through my website. It's an easy one to remember, psychicbonni.com. Or you can find me through my retreat and work with my co-teachers at the Legend of Greater Things. And we have some online stuff coming up, which I'm really excited about. Living by way of light. And we're going to teach just how to do that. So you can find us there, and we welcome everybody, no matter what state of light or dark you are in. Yeah.
Awesome. Everyone can go find that in the links in the show notes. And for the final trio, the first one, honoring that our first conversation came a little bit after this big convergence point for humanity, after the April 8th portal time. I wanted to ask you, when is the next harmonic convergence point for humanity?
Yeah, I think as we go into this eclipse season, it's echoing what took place on April 8th. So if the veil is thin, it's practically non-existent, and it will amplify where your intentions lie, where your authenticity lies. That things will amplify there, and there's no right or wrong. You're just going to get some reflections back onto this. So everything you wish to create can be just expanded right now. Any wounds might be a little inflamed right now, just to get you intimately in alignment with how to walk forward. So as we move into eclipse season, all these days are really powerful. However, I feel like when we get into the week of October 22nd, it will be a really, really, really charged time here on Earth, that you may be able to reach unprecedented potential in your own spiritual journey. So I'm really like looking forward to that time, and just to go within. But yeah, that is a specific time, and all of this journey of the eclipse season is really harnessing and moving in from that April 8th time. So we're just going to keep getting kind of like reviews of those openings. You can call it a living portal or a download. But again, this might be why there's such a deep call to create this kind of avataric state of being human, so that you can participate more and more and more in this, codes of consciousness as we progress. Yeah.
I'm definitely signed up to that.
Yeah.
I'll see you October 22nd.
Yeah, see you in the dream space. Yeah, that's right.
In the night school with Morgan.
In the night school. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what's going to happen the week of that. Yeah.
So the second question that I have for you is, what is that greater thing that you feel that we will accomplish at this time as humanity, that will be seen as a legend for the generations to come?
I think we're moving into the first phase of transparency. Transparency and accountability. And what comes after that is this non-binary state of mind and consciousness, this non-dual, we're at the infancy of it, because right now we're getting everything but that. We're getting all the polarizing effects that are happening on Earth. Everything just seems to be really polarizing, and there's a reason for that too. Nature is preparing to go to this kind of critical tension point to reveal a new Earth. And once we get to this kind of crest in our consciousness, what's coming forward in the next generations will be this idea of truly seeing and truly listening, truly giving our story and truly listening to the stories that are given to us, which is highly reminiscent of, again, this kind of indigenous lifestyle, or this kind of living deep within your own community. So I believe the next phase is going to be, yes, unity consciousness, but before that, compassion, patience. And that's going to put us into the universal flow and continuum when we can enter these states of reverence and presence. So I believe that that's the wave of the future. And I think that because of that wave of consciousness shift, it will start to permeate very large infrastructures like corporations that are really dense and solid. I think that's going to be the next major transparent point and focus of humanity. There's a lot of power there and a lot of tools that can be used for good. So I believe that through this wave of our awakening, it's really going to go after some of the deeper infrastructures, which is tied up around security and financial institutions. So, but we're going to be the tsunami that makes that happen. So every time you make a shift, you affect all of us, and you affect your community and your family. And that as you come together intentionally, that creates a nuclear bomb of light that ripples out, and nothing can stop that. And that's the sign of our time. So I'm so excited to be on Earth now, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
And to end and to honor as well Dalai Lama's good morning, I want to leave people with a practical how question of how does one infuse more light into their sound current so that when they are speaking and they're using their voice, they can imprint others in the field around them with even greater levels of light.
Absolutely. Just like we take care of our bodies and our complexions and what we eat and our dietary regime, our vitamins, our conscious relationships, I think now more than ever, this is the birth of paying attention and participating on the resonance of our energetic fields or our auric fields, really working on our light bodies to keep them healthy and strong. And of course, we're going to go through the things that we're going to go through, but really, you know, if you're maintaining and you're feeding this body of light or this energetic field or the pranic bodies, then it might be a little easier to walk through the dark anyway, you know? So I think that two things that I would offer is the how would be, don't work so hard. There are tools on this planet that are incredibly useful. For instance, the major tones of the universe. Some people regard this as the solfeggio systems or different hemisyncs or hertz. You know, go ahead and just put certain hertz that resonate with you. Put it on in the background. You know, some people like the 963 is this kind of unifying sound current. Play it all of the time. Play it in your sleep, play it in the background. In fact, you'll start to not only absorb, but assimilate to this master natural tone where it becomes habitual, believe that or not. So it's this kind of, you know, when things go to default, that'll be the default. So just simple things like playing some of these frequencies every moment of the day that you can get away with it is really, really helpful to inform and maintain these light bodies, which is your sound current, which is coming out of your voice, which is the electric manifestation of your being. And then also this purification of intention is really key. It's hard sometimes to get there, but you know, we race around trying to just keep up with life and we forget that's probably not really at the heart of who we are. And so doing the work to really be self-aware, going, what do I care about? What do I want to create? And, you know, do I want to advance in this world because I'm scared I'm going to get left behind? Or do I want to be seen because I've never been seen or heard before? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but just getting to the heart of why you do what you do and engaging with that is really key. You know, I was thinking last night about how in some cultures at birth, you're given a sacred name. And this name embodies your purpose and your karma. And all you have to do is fulfill that name and work for that name your whole life. And it's kind of clear. And in older cultures, we're not necessarily given that same message. So we have to go at it a whole different way to find that seed of authentic truth. So really doing the work to purify why you do what you do and why you say what you say will condense and compress your light into the most potent seed, and that will inform your energetic bodies going forward in all the things that you create. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Easier said than done.
Bonni McCliss.
For sure.
easier said than done.
Easy.
If you have Morgan Freeman by your side, you can
Yeah. He's so good.
it's like a free pass of the universe. Bonni, thank you so much again for just infusing us with your light, and it's just amazing to speak with you and we together. I have a feeling
likewise.
we'll continue to do this for many years down the line. So I'm excited for the next one, and sending you so much love.
Me too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this space very, very much, and all of yours. Thank you.